Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hey.
Brian Shea.
Hi.
JV Gwaltney.
What's up?
Good to be back home. It's been a while. A lot of traveling, sometimes with Kyle, sometimes with other people.
Maybe secret trips.
In the near future, we're going to unload and talk about a lot of cool exclusive things. So stay tuned for that. Maybe when the next issue's out. That seems like a good time. But for this episode of the Game Informer Show, we're finally talking about Splatoon 2. No more betas, no more splat tests, no more cat tests. This is the full unloading of everything we know about Splatoon 2. Brian Shea, you reviewed it, right?
Yes, I did.
God bless you. Then we're going to talk about Destiny 2 beta. Finally, a splat test for Destiny 2. Just quick impressions about that. Then we're going to talk about End is Nigh. A new platformer from the co-creator of Super Meat Boy.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual successor in some ways.
It's confusing, but Serio's been playing a lot of it, so we'll talk all about that. Then maybe
a lot of
about
it.
Evo. Then fun email section. Who knows what nonsense we'll get into there. And then back half of the show is an odd one. Thanks to Brian Shea, it was last week. You said, hey, do you want to talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson on the podcast? And I said, well, yes. I seek out almost every interview he does. I would like that. So we Skyped in Sir Neil deGrasse Tyson. I assume he's a sir.
He's a doctor.
That's good enough. So he is... I'm still a little confused. I watched the 8-minute Kickstarter video. There's some sort of physics sim game that he's involved with a Kickstarter for. So we talk a little bit about that. But also, it's just a good opportunity to talk to him about his thoughts on games, about us living in a simulation, and a bunch of other fun stuff. So it's a fun interview. You learn his favorite game, and I'm guessing no one would be able to guess it.
Mass Effect.
Chess.
Battletoads.
Well, you all three guessed it. So never mind. But hey, for right now, Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
Brian Shea, what's the most interesting thing about Splatoon 2?
Salmon Run.
Really? Okay.
I think Salmon Run's a lot of fun. It's just like a horde-style, wave-based survival mode. Join 3 other friends and just tackle enemies as they come at you and try to harvest their eggs.
It's nice to have a new mode for Splatoon 2 for all the people saying, oh, it's just like the original one again. But I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can only play that at certain times?
In matchmaking, yes.
And online, yes.
But you can do like a private match with friends at any time.
Okay.
Or like get a bunch of friends who have Switches together and play like a local match.
In
But
an
the
arena.
problem is like you have to have friends.
Yeah.
How
That's
you doing with
proving
friends?
a real issue for me.
It's fine.
Okay, you doing all right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Have you all played the Salmon Run then?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a video on it, I feel like.
We
right?
did.
Yeah.
There's a video on GameInformer.com.
I've read every YouTube comment saying, you're blowing it. Use the motion controls, you hacks.
Yeah, Jeff Cork
I
just
hate it.
kept getting eaten. He was really bad. He
What
just
is-
kept getting devoured.
That thing about the motion controls, man. Splatoon players love it.
I
don't get
cannot
I
play
can't do
motion
it.
controls.
Yeah,
I-
don't know.
I think I'm going to try it again. I played the Wii U version, the Splatoon 1, I should say, with not using the motion controls. But it seems like everybody who knows anything about Splatoon, it's like, hey, once you get used to it, it's like a slight learning curve. It's like swiping to text. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Where at first it's really bizarre, and now you can't live without it.
I
So
mean,
I'm going to force myself to do it this
I
time.
do like I'm not like one of those guys that's like motion controls suck. I don't ever want them. Like I like them in Breath of the Wild. I kept them on and I like them in Breath of the Wild. But I gave Splatoon a shot and I turned them off pretty quickly. But maybe it's like just break through it. Like
Yes.
play 5 matches with motion controls on and suck for the first 3 and maybe the last 2. I'll
Suck
get
down
the hang
those
of it.
salmon. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's unfortunate too because like the game opens and and there's no way to turn it off like for the first 5 minutes. So it's like you're just sort of weaving in through this labyrinth, like hopping everywhere with motion controls. It's really unsettling. It feels kind of like a horror experience.
All right.
And like then you get to like
Come on.
then you get
That's
to the
just because you had
square.
red ink. If you had the purple ink, it would.
Oh yeah, it'd be fine. And then you can turn them off, and it was like this huge wave of relief.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it was
bet.
it was really good.
So I'm still confused. Salmon Run, you said Jeff Cork kept getting eaten.
Yeah, there's a shark enemy that literally eats you.
Does he swim around in the ink? Yep.
Yeah. So there's a bunch
It's
of
really
boss
clever.
there's a bunch of boss enemies that come out just like Horde mode in Gears of War. There's a bunch of like standard minion characters that you have to fight off.
And it's the octopus freakos.
No, they're salmon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
they're salmon. So there's like a bunch of really creative bosses. So I guess I don't want to say the Salmon Run's the most interesting part of it because I really love the single player as well. The single player is super creative. It beats the single player of the first one, which I loved as well.
Huh.
And they both have distinct, really awesome creative bosses as well. Salmon Run, they have one that's like a bunch of pots and pans stacked up on top of each other, and there's a guy up top shooting like a stream of ink at you. And in order to take him out, you have to do kind of like the Super Mario World eating the cactus thing, where like when the cactus, like knock out the bottom one, then knock out the next one until he's all the way on the ground. Then you can shoot him.
Do they recycle bosses from the single player campaign?
No, they're all new.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
then there's the shark one that JV was talking about that kept eating cork, where you just see a little like kind of like a buoy going through the ink, and then
Stop.
Not a David Bowie.
No, I get that, but there's a shark. It seems like there's a very easy way to tell if there's a shark swimming, which is the fin. But they have a buoy?
Oh, I thought you were going to say that the Jaws theme should be playing. Like, that's totally what I thought you were going to do.
But like a Splatoon version of like, wank, 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 wank. Yeah.
Amazing.
No, it's you just see that going through the...
Why not his fin?
I don't know.
Well, hold on. Maybe the fin's there, but the
Maybe
buoy
it
just
is,
makes
yeah.
it more, accentuates it.
But
for like the mechanics purposes of like, this is easier to see now.
Yeah,
It might be,
there's also like a generous like circle of like a glowing circle that appears for like 2 seconds before it like rises up
It
to
emerges
bite
out.
you. So
And then there is one that's like just a flying
Trash
monster
can.
with dumpsters on either side, and it does airstrikes from the dumpsters. And when it opens up for the airstrikes, you got to throw your bomb in there to blow it off.
yeah. You have to do it
All right.
twice. Like you have to knock out both sides.
And there's one that has he is completely invincible, except he has a balloon that inflates on his head that he launches at you. But if you shoot the balloon before it launches off, it blows up in his dumb face.
This sounds very clever. This sounds really
I
good.
mean, the boss battles are super cool.
Yeah.
They're the highlight of both modes.
Is that right?
And yeah, the single player is also super awesome.
How does it compare to the first one? Because the first one, I think it was enjoyable, but you were an underdog lover if you were the guy that was like, oh, it's secretly amazing. Like it was just north of pretty
It was
fun.
really good, and I think that the first one was really good, and I think that it was a pleasant surprise for a game that everybody thought was going to be all about the multiplayer.
Right.
I think that Splatoon 2's is also really, really good. I think it's a little bit better than the first one.
Meaning what's better about it?
I think that they added some new elements. They took some of the old elements and kind of presented them in new ways to make it so it's interesting.
You're a lot more mobile throughout. Like you're moving a lot faster. You're like gliding on rails.
The rails are super cool.
And they mix up the weapons a lot too, because they brought like all the weapons they added post release for Splatoon 1. Like there's an entire level dedicated to that like weird paintbrush.
Yeah.
Or that like there's like this new umbrella weapon that you can use defensively, but you can also shoot the umbrella out. And they design a whole level around using that weapon to let you learn how to use it. And it's cool. Like
it is awesome.
Yeah.
It's not even in multiplayer yet. They're bringing it to multiplayer as like one of the first post-release updates. So like you hold the button or if you just tap the trigger, it shoots almost like a shotgun blast of ink. And if you hold it, it opens up the umbrella like a shield. And then if you hold it for too long, the umbrella portion of it just shoots off into the distance and explodes. It's really cool.
So same tone, but maybe even more personality in this one. Just wackier equipment, movement overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
This sounds great.
It's just like the movement was a big thing for me because like a lot more rails. So you're gliding along rails, you're shooting while you're on those rails.
That's Kyle Hilliard porn.
You're jumping between rails.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Well, my porn is jumping from really high heights, which you do a lot of that too.
Oh, really?
And then there's also like a lot of moving blocks and stuff like that. It's never like platforming. Like you're not playing Super Mario.
There's some platforming sequence, but it's like very low.
But it's not the
platforming.
focus. Like
No.
it's not hard to jump between the blocks because you got to focus on spraying ink, and it's cool. It just moves really fast. The bosses are awesome. It's got a cool ending.
It's still
Credits are sweet.
The final boss is
Good
a lot
credits.
better than the first one. Like it's not as hard, but it's super fun.
Yeah.
okay. That first one, that was
tough.
a rough go.
Yeah.
But memorable.
I think they learned a lot from that.
But it's still like the kind of nebulous levels floating in space. It's not like it's a more
Correct.
coherent
Right.
world or anything than the first one. It kind of feels just like elaborate challenge maps.
But what? It's like maybe 6 hours to play through the single player.
pretty,
so it's
wow.
pretty
I think
substantial.
it's bigger than longer than the first
Yeah,
one.
there's
too.
5 worlds. I think there's like 6 or 7
Yeah.
levels in each world plus the final boss.
Yeah, I just finished it last night, and I
boss.
enjoyed it
Right on.
quite a bit.
Is there a chance, since we haven't really talked about it yet, that the multiplayer isn't as sticky as you would want it to be? Did everyone kind of drain that with the first one of like, oh, it's fun, it's
Oh.
novel, but I don't know if I really need to level up that whole system
like,
again.
Does it sort of reset and it's like, oh, I'm back in? Is that kind of what you mean?
I guess so.
Yeah.
It seems odd that you guys aren't loving the core of what Splatoon
Well,
should be.
I
Right?
like it a lot. It's just the thing is that it's so similar to that of the first game that when you ask me what the most interesting thing about this is, it's not the thing that they carried over from the first game. It's the new stuff that they tried.
Yeah.
But the multiplayer is still super fun. Like they brought back some old maps with some new twists, and then they brought in some all new maps. I would say it's as good as the multiplayer in the first one. Only they have all of the modes that they added post release in there right out of the gate. so I guess it's better at launch.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like the Switch sort of, like in any other case, that would kind of be, maybe damning with faint praise, but the Switch is in an odd position, and I felt this with Mario Kart too, as someone who did not have a Wii U for long and like played none of those exclusives. Like getting to play it on the go for the first time, and even if it's like a slightly better version of like a game that came out years ago, it's great.
Yeah.
Like I love it. Like, sure, it might be the same game or whatever, but you're opening that up to a whole new audience, and like you can take that game anywhere. Like I feel like that has its own merits.
Do you feel like you get used to hitting Y to have the map come up? Because I played the Splat test, and that was the thing where it's like, man, I really miss having that map always on that bottom screen ready to go.
I got used to it.
Okay.
It only took me
I don't think it's ever as intuitive as just tapping the screen to launch to like your teammate.
Yeah.
But, I got a lot quicker with it, and it felt a lot more natural. I will say the only thing I don't like as much in the sequel as I did in the original is the music.
Ooh, interesting.
I think the music in the first one is freaking phenomenal. The second one, there's some catchy songs, but it's not nearly as good. Like I even after I wrote the review and like sent it off to Joe for edits, I went back and I listened to the soundtrack of the first game, and it is so much better.
But again, it's that situation, just to really on your point, Brian, where it's like that music, you already love it. Is it just maybe
But
getting used
I
to
brought
the new?
this up when I reviewed the first game, I really love the soundtrack of this game, and then I spent just as much time, if not more, with this game when I reviewed it, so it was
Do you know if it's the same composer?
I think it might be. I mean, it's the same band, because they have a band that actually plays the Splatoon music.
I didn't, and you
right,
played a lot
concerts and stuff.
Yeah.
Band, yeah.
You played a lot more than me, but I didn't really get the sense that there was a lot of new.
In the
music?
multiplayer, it's all new.
It's all new. Okay,
the single player recycles some of the songs,
because that's
but they
mostly
also
what
do some new.
I've played. Because there's just not. You had your like review sessions to play online, but I missed those, so I've only gotten to play online a little bit. But yeah, since I played mostly single player, that was my takeaway with the music. It's like this kind of I've heard all these.
A lot of the music in single player. I mean, there are some new tracks in there, but a lot of it is either the same song or like a re-recorded version of the same song. Because they told me when I interviewed them at E3 that there was no music from the first game. So either they're lying, or they weren't thinking about single player, or they re-recorded some of the songs,
or they don't know the definition of the word new.
I also I feel like Splatoon is another occasion of like Nintendo having really neat ideas that like bash up against ideas that were fixed a long time ago. Like you can't, when you enter a lobby in multiplayer, there's no way to exit it unless you like back out of the game. So you just
turn off your game.
You have to sit there and wait.
Turn off the game.
So like if you enter a multiplayer matchmaking lobby and
Yeah.
like you get slotted into the multiplayer session waiting for new players, you either have to wait for that timer to expire, play through the match, or turn off your system to get out of that lobby.
Holy God.
No, it gets better. And there is no way to like switch your weapons while you wait, or like customize your character or pick out your gear or anything while you do this. You have to go back out to like the square that acts as basically like the interactive menu, like world thing where you buy stuff, and it's maddening because literally any other multiplayer game from like the past 10 years has solved this issue.
And I think my biggest criticism is how hard they make it to play with friends. Because
that was the big issue with the first one.
Yeah.
It still carries through.
Well, there's a way to like join friends and like have private matches and everything, and you can like if you see a friend is playing a match, you can try to join them. But so if JV's playing Splatoon, I know I said friends, but if JV's playing Splatoon 2 and I see that his match is joinable, I can click that and I'll be slotted right in. Granted that there's an open slot in his lobby.
but there's no way to like squad up. And then
There
go
are
in.
in certain modes.
And with the app.
Like in what do they call it? Not competitive. There's
League, ranked.
Turf War, ranked, and league. Yeah, I think in ranked you can create a party of 2 or 4, and then league there's no way to. Maybe I have those flip flopped. I think league there's actually a way to have a group of 2 going into the lobby or a group of 4 going into the lobby.
So there are ways to do what you want to do. It's just more convoluted than
It's
you want.
more convoluted, or you can use the Nintendo Switch app. And
let's dive into
invite
this.
your friends.
How is that? It's our first time really with the Switch online in a robust way, right?
So I do like the app. I'm a proponent of like I do like the idea of managing
the
your
stat
group.
tracking's awesome.
I like the stat tracking. I like the idea of managing a group on my phone because usually if you're going online, you're kind of texting people and stuff. Anyway, I don't mind that. I think that's an interesting idea. And what little I've played with it, it seemed like, okay, you can invite friends, you can make groups and stuff like that. But then you run into the problem, which a lot of people have pointed out, which is absurd, is that like if you're doing like voice chat with the app, if you close the app or turn off your screen, you get disconnected.
You can't let the phone go to sleep?
You have to leave. Well, it won't go to sleep if the app is running, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
But like if you turn off the app, like you have to start
like
over.
in between matches
You
in a
can't
multiplayer
check
game.
Twitter while you're waiting for a match to start.
Like that's every multiplayer game I've ever played. While I'm waiting for the next match, all right, what's going on Twitter, or what's going on in my email inbox? Like,
nope.
Holy God!
And honestly,
you got to lock in. You can't look at Twitter. You can't respond to text messages. You're playing Splatoon, and that's it.
it seems like something Nintendo would defend as like, oh, well, we want you to focus on our games.
Yeah,
no, but like this is like one of the hallmarks I feel of like modern Nintendo stuff is you need a goddamn flowchart to like answer a simple question. Like when Fire Emblem, not the last one, but the one that came out that had like 3 games, and you wanted to know which game do I want to play.
Yeah,
there would be like a flowchart to answer that, and that's the same thing with Splatoon. How do I play with my friends? Well, here you go. I keep getting disconnected. Well, you got to do this and this and this, and it's insane.
But the one nice thing I will say for it is pretty intuitive in terms of like inviting people, and it looks nice when you have people in a group. You're like these little bubbles floating around, kind of like arms. That's nice.
As long as there's animation that'll drain the hell out of my battery.
Exactly.
That's all I care about.
That's cool. Like I said, I like the idea of offloading it off the console onto a phone. I don't think that's a bad idea.
You like that idea?
I do. I like that
weird.
idea. But it functionally is not working right now. And the biggest thing they need to do is let you use it while your phone is
in the background.
or in the background.
It's all optional. It's just if you want voice chat, right? Or just if you want more stats.
It makes it easier to connect with friends, because like what Brian is talking about was like all the onboard stuff. Like, so it makes it easier to connect with friends. But yeah, it is optional. If you don't care about talking to people while playing Splatoon, you don't have to use it, I guess.
And but the stat tracking stuff is super cool.
That's
like
cool.
I went into my Splatoon stats last night, and it was like, all right, here's how much paint you've sprayed over the course of your entire multiplayer career. Here's what your win-loss record is over the past 50 matches. Here's how you've done on this map. Here's how you've done on this map.
So it isn't just like, because most stats, like I look at them in other games, is like, here's how much you suck. And like, that's not interesting, but like stuff that's like miles traveled, or like, here's how much paint you've spilled, or whatever. That's cool.
That is high on the list, is here's how much ink you have sprayed.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I just like seeing that number.
That's
cool.
And they actually, you level up on that. So it's like, all right, you've covered enough to, paint this entire desert on Earth. Like, it gives you it gives you a real world equivalent of how much ink
I haven't sprayed enough ink to see that.
Well, I think painted all of New York.
I think I had enough to like paint a pyramid. That's how much I
really
had.
like that a lot.
That
cool.
is really
one
cool.
of the Great Pyramids.
I think so.
That's absurd.
All
right, that's fine.
You got it. Those are rookie numbers. You got to do better.
Get to the Sphinx, then we'll talk. Great. What'd you end up giving this game?
I gave it an 8.25 out of 10 because, while I had a lot of fun with the game, there were so many things that like the game kind of got in its own way. Like the salmon run not being available online at all times.
Real quick, how does that work? Is it like every 30 minutes, or is it like a specific schedule?
There's a specific schedule. It's kind of like the way maps rotate, where it's like, all right, they're hiring, because the whole story is you're a freelancer going in to collect eggs for this agency.
Of course.
So it's like, oh, well, they're not hiring right now, so you can't enlist.
Sure.
Let's all have fun.
Okay.
So, but yeah, all right, it's open for this 2-hour window, kind of like maps rotate in and out of availability.
Right.
Which I also still wish they didn't do, the maps rotating in and out. And then also the problems we just talked about connecting with friends and not being able to back out of a matchmaking lobby, not being able to change out your loadout without leaving a matchmaking lobby.
Bizarre.
Other than that, I love the game.
There we go. I'm looking forward to playing it for sure.
Yeah.
Kyle, before we let you go, because we're going to swap you out of here, I'm curious if you checked out the D23 stuff at all last weekend.
A little bit. It's a weird thing where so much of that stuff, and by that stuff I mean like presentations at Comic-Cons and E3s, becomes public, and so much of that was me reading descriptions of things that people saw.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
You know
So this is the big Disney annual convention. Confusingly, it's called D23. Kim Wallace was actually out there, but she wasn't able to be on this podcast, which is a bummer. But she did an interview with Nomura talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, so you can check it out online and stuff. But what stood out to you?
Toy Story, Kingdom Hearts.
That's it.
I instantly thought of you, of course.
I instantly thought of you.
You'll finally play Kingdom Hearts.
I will.
Which is absolutely
honestly
ridiculous that you haven't played Kingdom Hearts. Like
I've
It's
tried.
not that
It made me
ridiculous.
nauseous.
it just
But
seems like
I love Final Fantasy.
If someone
Yeah.
came to you and were like, Ben, what are some of your favorite things? What do you want us to make a video game about? I'd be like, well, I really love Disney and Pixar and Final Fantasy is just one of my favorite things. If you could like wrap that all up into
and I
something,
love
that'd
being
be
in
great.
wait for years in game development. That's really what I'm into. Anticipation.
Just stories that don't make sense. If they the less I saw someone made a good joke. They were like, finally a Toy Story story with Kingdom Hearts writing. Finally, that's all what I've always wanted.
So, did you watch the Bizarre Games panel where they debuted
No.
that? Nomura
I
got up on
watched the
stage?
trailer a lot because I even went and like wrote a feature for the site, like picking out a lot of little things that were hidden in it. But no, I didn't watch the panel.
It's
no.
confusing. They said it's after Toy Story 2, but it's an original story. But it seems like
That's
the
right.
characters, at least in the trailer,
What?
all very Toy Story 1. There's no Wheezy.
Yeah,
Jesse.
No Jesse.
yeah. After because they said they.
Sorry, I should have thought of Jesse before Wheezy.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Wheezy does close out Toy Story too.
He's very
to be fair.
important.
I forgot my point. Yeah, because usually Kingdom Hearts, like those levels just tell the story of the film or whatever,
Right.
And that's what they wanted to do with Toy Story. But I guess Pixar was like, yeah, no, make something new, and sort of can kind of be canonical. I don't
Right.
know.
And so they had a story guy from Pixar come out on stage, and they
Yeah.
also had Tasha, who used to be at Double Fine. She was the lead on Costume
Oh,
Quest. She
yeah.
went back
Yeah,
to
she's
Pixar
great.
then,
Huh.
and I guess she's like an associate producer on the game. So she was working with Nomura and talking
Oh,
about
that's cool.
what a geek she was for this stuff. But there's an amazing moment where they invite the Pixar crew out on stage, and then just these doofuses dressed as the Green Army Men from Toy Story just come out and start screaming for a while.
Do they have planked feet?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Which is subpar.
That's
Come
a
on.
missed opportunity.
Exactly. And they're just like shouting and yelling at the crowd and other walkie-talkies and stuff and really hamming it up.
Yeah.
And then just watching Nomura try to comprehend what is happening is so satisfying. He just looks slightly agitated and confused throughout the whole experience.
He's like, did we announce a new Army Man game?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I also the other quick thing about that trailer that I really love, which is something I certainly could have found on my own, is that that's the first time I've seen the Toy Story cast speaking Japanese, which was fun.
Yeah, isn't that great?
I got to show that to my daughter, and she was very confused by the whole thing.
Do they get Tom Hanks to speak Japanese?
No, they got his brother actually.
He's
Colin
fluent,
Hanks.
naturally.
No, that's his son.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Learn the Hanks family.
I'm sorry, I don't know the Hanks family.
Tom
tree.
Hanks' brother does all of Tom Hanks' voice work and stuff outside of the Toy Story films. So if you hear Woody talking in like a video game, that's Tom Hanks' brother.
What?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is trivia I never thought I knew.
Wait, this is real? You're not
Yeah.
making a
No,
Kyle?
it's very true.
Yeah.
It's fun to listen to. And when
A fact?
and when his brother isn't available, then they have Andrew Reiner just to scream. It clearly sounds like Tom Hanks whenever he yells.
So I'm a big superhero guy. While we're on D23, I'm a
yeah.
big like superhero comics and movies and games guy,
Muscle
and
guy.
I was really looking forward to the Spider-Man stuff
Yeah.
that Insomniac was going to bring because I loved what I saw at E3, and I was anticipating some big reveal at D23, and boy, was I disappointed.
It was just a panel discussion. They kind of broke down some of the gameplay that they already showed at E3, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they also released like this video of like, all right, behind the scenes
Yeah.
of Spider-Man by Insomniac Games, and it was like, we really like Spider-Man. We have a lot of passion for this franchise, so when we got the chance to make a Spider-Man game, we were really excited and passionate, and we
Yeah.
were really excited, and we think we're
Yeah,
going to
it
do
was
a
little
good
bit of
job.
bummer. It was also a bummer with Battlefront.
Oh yeah,
They had another like behind the scenes video where it's like I thought they were finally going to go into single player because I'm really excited to see that single player campaign, but it was just more
we're
of
never going to learn about that single player
little
campaign.
glimpses, concept art. Well, they showed it at E3. They
Right.
just haven't shown it publicly, which I really want to see what that actually is like and how big it is. But it was interesting just seeing. For years now, people have been screaming like, "When is Disney going to start like farming out their licenses to amazing studios again?" I feel like this was the first D23 where it felt almost like an E3 press conference, and it was just so strange to have now Disney pulling all these different companies in to develop games for them. So like on the same stage, they had Insomniac, Nomura from Square, then they had like Sanzaru representatives,
Oh, yeah.
the people who made
Oh,
The Last
Sly?
Sly Cooper. Yeah, because they're
that seems
making
like a good fit. Yeah.
a crazy Marvel VR game.
Oh yeah,
that seems like less of a good fit.
So it's just weird to have this outside
quick.
company, assembling this Avengers of game development. Where it's like, oh, of course, these are the Disney developers now,
Interesting.
kind of, sorta. So it's
Get
fun to watch.
Capcom back in there, maybe.
Hell,
Oh, we
who
can also
knows?
mention Wreck-It Ralph 2. Sounds insane. I don't know if you read about it. Did you read about this?
No.
They showed a clip where apparently Vanellope interacts with all the Disney princesses.
What?
Like
they got all the voice actresses back
who are alive
What?
to do. Yeah, so like she'll
and
be
one that was dead.
they brought her back for this. She just
They
this
rubbed
was
a
the thing.
microphone against her throat.
But I guess they go to like because the big thing about Wreck-It Ralph 2 is they go online and they go to like a Disney website and Vanellope hangs out with like every Disney princess, which just sounds nuts. Like I'm very curious to see this
Didn't
movie.
they say Nintendo was involved this time around?
They were last time?
It's just that Mario wasn't in it.
That's right.
Yeah, but they were totally,
because Bowser was in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember Ben Reeves interviewed the director Rich Moore, and he said that one of the things was they had the Badanon where they had the robot, the egg guy, Eggman, Dr. Eggman. What's his name?
The man that's egg shaped.
Yes, the man that's egg shaped.
Dr. Robotnik.
Dr. Robotnik. I am so sorry. I don't know what happened there, but apparently they kept arguing about who would be the biggest bad guy. So like Bowser and Dr. Robotnik kept growing and growing over
because of the corporations.
Yeah, because they're like,
no.
Bowser would definitely be bigger than Dr. Robotnik.
And honestly, when I saw that Bowser was, I was like, I'm going to stick to Mario fan. But help me God, if Robotnik was an inch bigger, I would have swapped.
Didn't they have Zangief from Street Fighter as like a bad guy, but he's not really a bad guy?
I think he was part of that argument too. I think he kept growing, until Rich Moore was like, "No, you guys stop arguing. This is Disney. We know what we're doing."
I know you're a fan of the phones, the cell phones in Zootopia, and I was arguing like it's going to make it age so poorly. I am convinced Wreck-It Ralph 2 is going to be the fastest Disney film to just age out, and within like 2 years, it's going to be the most dated thing. I'm sure it'll be very funny, but it's going to be bizarre how fast that thing deteriorates.
The fear is that they like internet meme humor.
Yes.
Let's go fidget spinners.
Right? Like, let's have a big piece about Uber in this film or other like hot tech companies. Like, man, that stuff is gone so quickly.
Yeah, fingers crossed that they don't lean into that too much because
the entire movie is them going around the internet.
Well, yeah, but not like the meme culture of the internet. Just like use it as a means to like to meet everybody in assorted Disney universes. But like Wreck-It Ralph worked really well because they looked to the past of video games. So
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, Kyle, do you want to get the hell out of here by giving yourself a high five?
So much.
Sergio Vasquez.
Hello.
Welcome, sir.
Hi.
You're our expert on so many things, and we're really going to pick your brain here on the second half of the Game Informer show. Destiny 2. The beta is out there. It's not too tricky to get into. It's not a heap and helping of content. So there's 2 campaign missions, and then multiplayer and 1 strike. It's a solid amount, I guess. So if you want the nerdy deep dive video tour with the masters of Destiny within Game Informer, there's a video that went up recently with Andy McNamara, editor-in-chief, and Matt Miller, who's just the poet of the century when it comes to Destiny and Destiny 2 content. So definitely check that out. But for the rookie, the average man's viewpoint, what do you guys think of the beta so far?
It's more Destiny.
All right.
It's fine. Like that was my takeaway. Like I play it. It's really not that much to go on, I feel like.
Yeah?
Like it's less than 2 hours. I literally booted it up this morning, got up, booted it up, played through the whole thing in less than 2 hours. I was like, this feels like more Destiny. It feels there are general tweaks here, like the gunplay, which is already fine. It was already fine. Feels
great.
better.
What are you talking
It's
about?
a little more north of fine.
Well, all right,
It's one of
fine.
the best
Like it's
playing gun.
blah blah blah. Fine,
Right.
gunplay is improved, but and I didn't really have. I'm sure for people like Miller and Andy, like the whole thing with like, oh, the tower's fallen, and you're seeing all these characters, and like, and seeing that in first person for like the first time instead of like roaming around it, but actually having like a combat level made out of that where everything's falling apart. I'm sure that was cool, but I had no emotional attachment to any of that. It felt like I was on sort of like a ride at an amusement park, like at Universal or something. It's like, okay, this is fine. These are cool set pieces, but I just don't have I don't care about any of these people. Like, I didn't even remember any of their names. Like, it's like, oh, there's
Like me
Nathan
coming into
Fillion.
this office.
JV, if you go on about your indifference for this thing.
No,
so
it's
help
not
me
even.
God.
No, it's not even. I'm still waiting for a reason to feel like this is a massive improvement.
I feel like the new social space that they have talked a little bit about, like out in the forest where there's like different NPCs out there you can encounter, I feel like that'll be the biggest bump and it'll convince us more that, hey, this is a brand new game. I do think that first level on the tower, watching it come down around you, I think it looks amazing. Production values are crazy. Explosions everywhere. The action's pretty simple there. And I was a little bit skeptical of like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I think the second mission, the gameplay gets much more
strike.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, just the second
okay.
story mission.
that intro is split into 2 sections, like after you get in the ship.
Right,
But
once you land on the ship.
I like the strike a lot. Inverted Spiral, it's called.
The inverted Spire. Yeah.
Spire.
It's on Nessus, one of the new
Blew it.
planets. Yeah.
I feel like they're iterating on their strikes and trying to make them more in line. I mean, I don't want to say like, oh, this is like raid quality encounters, but they're making them more interesting than like, okay, head to the point. Here's a bad guy. Shoot it until it's dead.
Yeah.
That last boss fight was actually pretty good in terms of
disappearing platforms.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Down.
And there was like a story of like, okay, well, he's making the floor disappear, and there's some clever lines in there.
Little odd, just to cut you off
Yeah.
for little odd that both the second campaign mission and the strike ends with giant spinny things going around that can kill you. It's a weird thing for that to be your sample of Destiny 2.
Yeah,
Hope you like big spinny turbine things.
I do.
Good.
I also found it kind of weird. There's a part where you have to destroy the spinning turbines, right? And they say, "Oh, shoot them." And I threw a grenade on it, and it didn't do anything.
Oh, really?
You have to shoot them with bullets.
Are you sure you hit the right spot?
I'm
Way down
pretty
there?
sure I threw it in there. Like it's
Okay.
anyway. But I do feel like it is sort of a market improvement. It felt like a little more paced, and then and less like, okay, you're gonna run around this area. There are gonna be enemies like there would be in an MMO, and you're just gonna shoot them until you get to the boss.
I feel like, the strike designs overall throughout Destiny 1's life definitely evolved and got better and better along the way.
Yeah, and I think this is a step up from that. But like,
Yeah.
I think to your point, JV, about waiting for something that's gonna like be markedly different. I don't know that we're gonna get that. I think that
Right.
Yeah.
I think the people who like Destiny kind of like it where it is at this point. And I think we are going to get improved versions of what we already have. And I think that's their goal, is to just say like, we know we have something good here with Destiny that people really like.
Yeah.
We're going to try to make sure that we don't have maybe some of the problems from Destiny 1 and try to build on it as much as possible.
And I was talking with some guys at Bungie when I was at E3, and they said that this game has more cutscenes than any game they've ever done. So if you think about all the games that Bungie's done, like, Halo had a fair number of cutscenes.
Yeah.
And because they were talking about how that was one of the main things, is they wanted to make it so the story was better in the game itself.
Well, forget cutscenes. I think the storytelling is improved just in the gameplay sequence. I mean, you talk about being on the tower again, and you don't remember the characters' names, but like it opens and like you're fighting alongside for a little bit. Cade 6, like Shaxx is like holding a door. Zavala's like making his bubble, which originally is just in a cutscene, and then actually is in the gameplay sequence as well. And you can go inside it. Like I think Destiny 2 already, from what they've shown, is doing a better job of actually putting those characters in the world and making them real things instead of just glorified menus.
Yeah, I agree on to the extent that like, oh, there are actually like storytelling elements happening in this game now,
Right.
as opposed to like these are places that you visit and then an NPC talks to you and just like it's exposition all in your face. Like those bits are cool. My main concern is because this happened with the Taken King is like, okay, we have this sort of thrill ride sequence where you're meeting up with all these characters and you're doing things. Is that just going to revert back to like strike missions all the time? Because that's what the Taken King did. Right? Like, you go and you fight the bosses, but for the majority, there wasn't anything that was constructed like that.
Yeah, and some of those expansion packs were constructed weirdly. Like I kind of get it, but you'd have like a main campaign, and there was like a bonus thing you could do. It's like, oh, go around to these areas and basically do a bunch of grinding, and then we'll give you the actual final like encounter, and then that leads into the raid. And so like I'm hoping they don't do that as much, because I'm not a big fan of like the what do you call them, like the playlands areas in Destiny, where it's just like you just go around and collect
places to
missions.
patrol.
Patrol,
like, the patrols. I don't like those at all, really. And I'm excited about where the encounter design is heading, but I think like I want to, as someone who mainly got into Destiny this year and mainly for raids, I just want to see what the new what they're doing with raids.
What did you think of the story tease? Because they have the big bad Cabal man come out at the end of the second mission.
That's his name, Big Bad
Cabal
Cabal.
Man.
I think it's Gaul, and I think Taken King really worked better than Destiny Vanilla just because of that centralized villain of Oryx. And so having Gaul come out, it seems like they're going for that big centralized villain again. And it wasn't until the end of that little sequence I realized like, oh, this is just the Bane scene from Dark Knight Rises,
Yeah, it
where they're
was.
like on the walkway in the sewer. Like it is almost shot for shot that sequence. But
he grabs the Traveler and he breaks his back. And he
basically, yeah. But hey, if it
It was
works.
Peter Dinklage for some reason. He broke his back.
Yeah, that
He's
was weird.
breaking
It really
everybody's
hurt
back.
that ghost hard when he took that light out of him. Yeah, I'll be damned. But I'm curious to see what they do with the big bad.
And getting my hands on some of the new class changes, I think that The weapon system I'm still kind of getting used to. I'm not sure how I feel about having the two primary weapons with like the energy distinction, and then having like a like one heavy weapon basically that covers shotguns, sniper rifles, and grenade launchers and stuff.
Yeah.
But some of I like the sort of new ability that you have. So as a hunter, and every class, every subclass can basically do a role, whereas before it was just
Oh, that's everybody.
that's all class. Like that is an ability that is independent of your subclass.
Interesting.
So, but and you have two modifiers to what you can do. You can either have like a McCree, which is basically when you roll, it reloads, or if you roll near an enemy, it recharges your melee, which is pretty good, like a pretty strong ability.
Yeah, for sure. I love you just call it a McCree. That's exactly what I was thinking too. Like, oh, the McCree.
Yeah.
They pulled a McCree. Yeah.
And the new super that the hunters have, Miller sort of like made it seem like, okay, it doesn't lock on as much as the other one.
Yeah.
And I agree, but there is still sort of an element of if you're near someone and you press the button, like and you're kind of looking in their direction, you'll nail them.
You
like,
just Darth Maul your way towards them with an energy stick. And just annihilate
it's not
them.
as strong. It's not as strong
good,
as the previous super, where if we were running around and there was like enemies and you just mash R and just kill everybody,
Right.
if they were near you. So it's not that strong. But
Which one are you talking about specifically?
The old one, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Archstrider's the new one.
Right. I remember whatever the other one was, where you summoned a knife, basically, like you had like an electric knife.
That's right.
And it was basically the same thing except with a knife.
Yeah.
But this one is a little. You have to work it a little more. But I like those changes. I still think Titans are probably going to be the most useful class because they have the bubble still.
Sure.
And that was like the thing with any raid encounter. It's like, if we need a Titan. Who cares about any of the other classes? We need Titans for this encounter because the bubble is super central to our strategy.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how they balance the encounters and stuff.
Yeah, I think that second mission turned me around more than I expected.
Mhm.
Where I was kind of going in like, yeah, I like Taken King. If we can hit that quality level, I'll look forward to playing this again. But especially, I think the last time we talked on the podcast, we talked about the bummer of like no new races. But there were more new enemy types than I expected, even in the beta part alone. Like, there's weird red dogs that are coming at you and more
Snipers.
big bads that are flying around. Yeah. So within the races and the defined space, I think there's still plenty of wiggle room from what they've shown. But, hey, end is nigh.
Hey.
Let's get platforming, man.
Yeah, so The End is Nigh is the latest game from the people who basically made Super Meat Boy.
One half. This is Edmund
McMillan. Yeah. I think he partnered with someone else. I can't remember. Tyler something. Glale, I think it was something like that. So if you look at it, it basically looks like Super Meat Boy from a distance, but it's different enough that I still enjoyed it. Like, it doesn't feel like a rehash. There's a number of things that are different. For one, you can't wall jump. There's no sort of like, okay, I'm on a wall and I'm gonna like use that thing to.
But you can like ledge hang.
Yeah,
which is tough to unlearn Super Meat Boy's moves.
There's some bonuses to that. So if you hang off a ledge and you press sideways and jump, you'll do a more sideways jump that is different from just jumping off. There's hooks and everything that you can hang off the edge of ledges, and there'll also be hooks on walls and stuff. And this feels a little more puzzly as a result. So it's one big interconnected world, but it's not sort of like a Super Metroid where you have to go out and unlock this thing, even though there are sort of explicit keys you have to go get back. It feels like if you put all of Super Meat Boy's levels and laid them out, basically, as one interconnected thing.
Yeah.
And so there's some secrets attached to that. So, like, if you go up to the top of the screen, you somehow end up, in this area that isn't where you're supposed to go, you'll find a secret area where you can get tumors, and tumors are basically the bandages of the game.
Tumors or bandages.
That seems like a very Edmund thing.
Yeah,
to do.
it's got that same sense of like very grotesque, like everything is just like kind of
pulsating and
pulsating and icky,
Gishy.
but in this like very cutesy way.
Sure.
So you'll find like those are really cool. Just like finding like secret exits and things like that. And some of the collectibles are sort of game cartridges, which you go back to your home base at the beginning of the game, which you can warp between like certain parts of the map. And you can insert the cartridge in like I think what is a Super Nintendo or something, and you can play sort of more levels that are retro themed around that area. So every world has its own sort of theme. Like one theme, one level is just gas clouds everywhere, and so like you can't stay in the gas clouds for too long. Some of the later levels introduce some like conveyor belts and things like that. And so every area has like sort of both a thematic or a visual theme and a gameplay theme. And there's like something like they said like 600 levels or something. And
Jesus.
I'm just about done with it. I'm pretty like positive on it. I like it quite a bit.
I assume it's brutally hard, but you haven't said
Yeah.
that. Okay.
It keeps track of your deaths. I'm like probably over 1,000 at this point.
Christ.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
watching a short sequence of Suriel playing, and it definitely had a little bit of bullet hell vibe going on in one of the parts.
Wow.
His aesthetic is so interesting because I feel like a lot of people now, like after Indie Game the movie, a couple of years after that, sort of like crap on like his work a little bit, and are like, oh well, the only reason people like look on his game so fondly is because Super Meat Boy was like one of the first, like, oh, here's like an indie platformer that's like really successful, and that was like sort of apes that. And after like just Steam Greenlight and all this stuff where there are so many indie platformers that are hard, but I feel like his whole aesthetic of like, here's some splatterpunk gross stuff wrapped up in like the nostalgic trappings of like The Legend of Zelda with like Binding of Isaac and like Mario with like Super Meat Boy makes it stand out.
Yeah,
like even separated from like, okay, well, here are all these other indie games that are indie platformers. Why play his works over any of the other stuff? Like it's just an interesting combination.
Yeah.
I will say that there's way less narrative this time around, even for something like an M. Mullen game. So at the beginning, there's one cutscene that's fully voiced and everything, and I thought that there was going to be more of that. But basically the only levels I have left are like secret bonus areas.
Yeah.
And so I've done like the map. I've covered the entire map at this point, and I haven't gotten a single cutscene. Like I feel like I've beaten what is the last level in a sense. But I'm hoping that maybe there's something at the end of that.
Although that opening cutscene, that's a little screamy and confusing. I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm clamoring for
definitely one of
more
those
stuff
things
like that.
where I had to turn it down because
Yeah.
I
But he is an
Um,
interesting developer, JV, and he was on the show a while back, if you guys remember that interview. But it's interesting to see him take, and following him on Twitter, it seems like he really likes just doing these quick, simple-ish games, even though there's a lot of content here, as Cyril's saying. But like his take on roguelike was with Binding of Isaac, and it's just bizarre to see him take kind of a quicker and dirtier route with the platformer now, instead of making Super Meat Boy 2 necessarily, to just make this, hey, working with somebody else, just going to crank one of these bad boys out real quick. You can like it or not. And looking at like Steam sales, at least, I don't think it's grabbing the audience the same way. And I'm trying to figure out why. Is it just because it's not Team Meat necessarily making it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it hasn't found that crowd?
I wonder. To JV's point, even though I think like he does do a good job of distinguishing himself in terms of like tuning and fine tuning, like with platforming and making his game stand out, I think that it's not going to have the impact that Super Meat Boy had, just because I think Super Meat Boy was a breakout game, whereas this feels like, as good as it is, and as much as I'm liking it, this feels like here's another one of those, and so I don't think it's going to catch on as much. But I mean, Binding of Isaac was very different from Super Meat Boy, so I felt like it was sort of blazing its own kind of trails.
Yeah.
And there was also like I feel like we had like a year build up to like both of those games, whereas the end is Nigh like
Just kinda came out
it was
of
like
nowhere.
2 weeks before release, where it was like, oh, by the way, here's this thing that I've been working on.
Right.
Right.
And it gets confusing too, because like, well, Super Meat Boy Forever for iOS or mobile, that's still on the way. I think it's coming soon, right?
We'll see.
I think it is, yeah. And
I
so
mean,
it's just weird
yeah.
to like pump out another one so quickly. But cool. Glad you're enjoying it. You also went to Evo.
I did.
Last
I went to
week?
Yeah, last week.
Okay. This is the Search for Eden on Super
Yeah.
Nintendo.
Mhm.
One of
It's
the
my
best Super
favorite Dolphin
Nintendo games.
Bits game of all time.
So the big fighting game tournament, what were the standout impressions for you? What really rocked you and made you fall to your knees and say, oh my God, this is fascinating?
I mean, I went last year, and it was the case then, but I think it's more the case now, where it just feels like a huge convention. Like it is sort of more. It is much more than a tournament, but I think the tournament part of it is still super important.
Are you saying it's losing its focus a little bit?
I feel like it's expanding, but it's still. I mean, if you don't like fighting games, you're probably not going to get much out of it still. But the thing is that I didn't enter any tournaments because I was there, just to cover stuff, and I still ended up having like a great time. Like I didn't have to. You can just walk around the show floor, and there's Capcom was there with Marvel Infinite, Namco was there with Gundam Versus and Dragon Ball FighterZ, so which was sort of like the biggest venue they've had so far to have competitors play. Like there was a tournament there. for Dragon Ball FighterZ.
What was the buzz on the street from the hardcore fighting game community? Do they kind of scoff at like, oh, now people pay attention to Arc Systems Works?
I think most people are just like, finally, Arc System is going to have a game that will be widely popular.
Okay.
Just because like Guilty Gear is Guilty Gear is very good. Blaze Blue is like both of those have their very hardcore communities of people who will just say this is the best fighting game ever made. Like all you Street Fighter fans, all you Marvel fans are like dumb. You bet you should play Guilty Gear, but like. Dragon Ball feels like those Capcom people are also like, dude, I like I like Dragon Ball. I'll play this. So it just feels like multiple communities coming together to play this one game.
Did you hear any super smart hot takes on the gameplay within Dragon Ball FighterZ? It's better than we thought because of this. Or we're worried about this.
Some impressions are that maybe the combo system's going to be a little simpler. So like with the homing attacks, it didn't seem like people were getting off some of the combos you see in Guilty Gear. But I think a lot of those take practice and you sitting down in training mode for a while. So we'll see how it evolves. Marvel vs. Capcom, I think people are getting more and more positive on that game.
Oh, really?
I think some of the impressions of it are still sort of negative in terms of like the X-Men are still not in there. And they had a character reveal on the main stage. They added Jeddah from Darkstalkers.
I love Darkstalkers. I don't know Jeddah.
Yeah,
he's coming later on?
Yeah, he's sort of one of the vampire-ish characters.
Okay, he must have been in 2 or 3,
He uses
right?
scythe and stuff. Maybe, I don't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe not my favorite Darkstalkers characters. I would have liked to have seen BB Hood, but that's just me. There were a bunch of other reveals on the main stages as well. They had they announced like a Blaze Blue crossover game that is just every anime crossover you can think of. It's Blaze Blue, Persona,
What?
Ruby, which is the anime that Rooster Teeth made, and then Under Night in Birth, which is everybody's favorite fighting game. And it's just basically it feels like we have all these sprites. Guilty Gear's not really gonna gel with these because it looks so much better. Let's just put all this stuff in one game.
Wow, all right.
And then they had a reveal for the Arika fighting game, which still does not have a title.
Who's Eureka?
Arika is the people who made Street Fighter EX, the 3D PlayStation Street Fighter games.
Okay.
PS2, right?
No, I think they were original PlayStation.
Really?
I think they made one of their own games on PS2.
Okay.
They had just their character, like, because Arika made some of their new characters for these games, and so they're just using those characters and they're just putting them in their own game. It has an interesting system. So when I first saw it, I thought this just seems like a fighting game with like no very special things. But what you can do is you have these loadouts, and they basically have conditions, sort of like Street Fighter Cross Tekkens Gems, where let's say if you land X number of attacks, you basically gain super armor, which is every time you get hit, you don't get stunned at all. And so they're incredibly powerful, and like they seem pretty broken right now, but that seems like that seems like that game's hook, and it seems pretty interesting.
Yeah.
They revealed Skullomania's in it, the Darun Meister's in it, all your favorite Street Fighter characters.
Needn't say more.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other big takeaways from the overall thing?
I think that just walking around and seeing some of the people play, like there was just CRTs everywhere for
neat.
Super Smash Brothers and all the older games. Like there was you just walk around and there'd be like a Disney princess themed CRT because that's what people had, and they were playing old Darkstalkers games on like these awesome machines that are just like we took the CPS2 board, which is the arcade board that they use for old Capcom games, and they just put it in this console, and you can just run anything on it. Like I was playing it with a PS4 hitbox, which is like the arcade stick I use.
Yeah.
And people were just playing, Super Street Fighter, the original arcade versions of, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Vampire Savior, which is Darkstalkers, and all these old games, and just walking around and like you could sit down and play whatever game you wanted and have people like be super patient with you because I'd never played, high level Darkstalkers. So many people were just, we'll just play a bunch of matches. I'll kick your ass, but like it'll be fine.
That's something I really loved about things like MagFest when I used to go to that expo.
You're talking about the Zipper game?
Yeah, the Zipper game.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, just
Action
like the rows of CRTs with all the retro game consoles, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember playing this game on N64, and you just sit down and take a stroll down memory lane of a game that you completely forgot existed.
Yeah.
There's all these like awesome tables of like mods that you can get for your controllers that are like $400, and like there was a thing where you could buy a converter on short notice. So they had like an emergency line, and if you need to play a tournament game and you don't have like a PS4 controller, you can just go here and buy a converter.
Wow.
And then
Neat.
Also, they had fidget spinners.
Okay.
And it says Evo on
It
it.
says Evo on it.
Really the sweetest
You
thing
can
I've ever
spin the
seen in my
center
life.
too.
Ooh.
Audio listeners.
Wow.
Shock and
Dual
awe.
purpose.
JV, I've been out of the office a lot. Anything else going on around here we should talk about? What's the last week been like?
Peaceful because you've been gone.
Yeah, I imagine that's how it's been. I don't know. I went to the Nintendo store in New York. That's about the only exciting thing that happened.
Okay. Well, you did some other stuff we can talk about next week.
Yeah, we can talk about that next week.
Yeah, JB's been gone as well, so it's been great.
That's right. The police reports haven't been filed yet, so we can't talk about it.
Yeah.
Naturally. Well, hey, let's move on to emails, everybody. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We have some great emails from the community. You can send in whatever you want to podcast@GameInformer.com. News stories you want us to react to. We'll have hot takes, the hottest takes, says JV Gwaltney under his breath. If you have questions for us, comments, feedback, fan fiction. Dares, as I think last week it was prompted, which I do not support. But
if you are with the Dare program, if you want to send us something about anti-drug,
if you want to send us a stuffed lion that we have to take home and take care of for the next week, definitely let us know, Dare fans out there. Anyways, first email. Oh, by the way, we're going to choose our absolute favorite and then ship them out something real nice. So right into podcast@GameInformer.com. Here we go. Jack writes in and says, "What's your favorite convoluted or confusing plot in a video game?" Mine is just Street Fighter. Something about Shadowloo and the Illuminati just kind of both existing at the same time is hilarious to me. Metal Gear, maybe a close second. Sincerely, Jack. Yeah, I mean, Metal Gear is the obvious one.
Yeah, Metal Gear's probably number one.
I worked with Jason A. Stryker for years, and I did not know how deep his knowledge of that Street Fighter lore went until I heard him on Giant Bomb's podcast talking. I was like, what? Just the world of fighting game lore, I realized is like one of the last untapped veins of my mind when it comes to the video game subcultures. But Street Fighter's lore is a mess, right?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of retconning. A lot of those people were born in like the 70s and they're still kicking today. The timeline is super weird. People coming back as clones and shadow powers and Sagat, guy with an iPad.
It's so stupid. Just the simple thing of, I think for some reason I was thinking, it'd be funny recently to have like a feature where we talk the original creators and figure out like who won these tournaments, these age-old games. Wouldn't that be fun to be like, hey, who ended up winning Street Fighter 2? Who won Mortal Kombat 3? Just as a joke. When it's like, oh no, there's very definitive winners for basically every fighting game. Don't be an idiot. No clue that was a thing.
A lot of fighting games have really convoluted but somehow really interesting plots and storylines.
Ryu wins the Street Fighter 1 tournament. He gives Sagat his scar by unlocking the Satsuno Hado in his heart, and he regrets it, so he goes around the world and he trains to control that power. But sometimes it comes out, and he's got to go buy a black gi and kick ass or whatever.
Does any fighting game contextualize why characters are fighting each other again and again and again, and why they might be able to fight each other, or fight fight a clone of themselves?
Like the story modes in games like Mortal Kombat.
No, I'm talking about does any fighting game contextualize multiplayer? Outside of maybe Smash Brothers with the fact that they might be toys or something.
I think Injustice with recently with the multiverse stuff of just every time you go into a multiverse, it's you're fighting someone from another dimension.
That's not multiplayer.
That's true. But favorite
nice
convoluted.
try.
Yeah,
I tried. Well,
but overall convoluted plot. I mean, it's tough to beat Metal Gear Solid 2.
I mean, I'd say the whole series for me though. Of course.
But if you had to focus it down to one, it's got to be 2, right?
Because if you start thinking about Metal Gear, it immediately becomes that bit from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Charlie in front of the board trying to stick together track the mystery down, putting notes together, and it's just ridiculous. It's insane.
I feel like 2 is the most convoluted, but I think that 3 is probably my favorite in terms of I always love it when games sort of intertwine with actual history. So having some of that space race stuff in that, throwing that into the pot, I think was probably a really cool move.
That's just interesting to me because 3 is the most straightforward one.
Yeah, it is not the most convoluted. I think 2 is the most convoluted, but I think 3
in a very fun way. Yeah. But the last time I replayed 2, I was like, oh, this actually strings together better than I thought. It is a weird path that it goes with so many twists and turns, but at the end it's not as complicated as I remember.
I like looking at some of the long-running classic franchises and just trying to figure out, all right, there's 50 entries in this series. Some of them are spin-offs, some of them are core entries. What is canonical? Like Mario or Sonic? What the hell is going on?
Well, Mario Miyamoto's
what's the timeline here? What goes from what game to what game?
Resident Evil's another one I feel like.
Yeah.
Especially because when I was younger, I'd read the novels and stuff because we just had them at school, and they're bad.
What? I didn't even know there were novels. Okay.
Oh yeah, they're bad. They're tie-in novels that are adaptations of the games themselves, and then they're novels that take place between the games, and it's all wacky and weird and probably been retconned over and over again.
Oof. I think it was before your time, but if you're into Resident Evil lore and with the passing of George A. Romero, it's worth going back to watch. We live streamed the reading of Romero's Resident Evil movie script.
Yeah, that was like 2 weeks before I joined up.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, because
okay.
you guys were still talking about it. When I came in.
We should have re-promoted that when he died, because that is a weird, wild ride. And Wade did such a good job in the booth of like playing sound effects to go along with it. So we had like a full score and like gunshots. It was amazing. So many of the convoluted plots overall. It's like I feel like you need to separate it when it's a Japanese game, because you always wonder like how much of this is just coming through the translation. Like Xenogears I love, but a lot of the more complicated, messy nature of it is like, man, I have no idea how much of that is just coming from a quicker translation.
Yeah, and I mean, to the question of like Mass Effect is a super intricate lore, but is it convoluted? Like, does it?
No,
I think you need that cross language thing to really get the convoluted nature.
to really mess you up in terms of understanding.
Really punch you in the gut. No. Hey, Ben and Crew, says Josiah Sapp. What is your favorite sequel, and what did they add that made it better than the original? Mine would have to be Borderlands 2. Defined story, interesting characters, and an antagonist that you wanted to strangle from the very start. So the biggest bump up with a sequel. I think it's more fun if it's 1 to 2. You
okay, so
I mean?
only
Mass Effect 2. Like
I know JB.
I like that's just
So if we have to go 1 to 2,
I think it's more fun.
Okay, because I was going to say like maybe Super Mario World from Mario 3, but I'm a Mario World guy.
Step down.
Maybe I know I'm going to be in the minority on this. I loved Portal 2.
I think that's a great one.
But Mass Effect 2 also is up there for me.
Yeah.
I
Red Dead Redemption over Red Dead Revolver.
Oh, that's an interesting case. I like that one.
That's maybe kind of sort of I was thinking, mentioned it earlier, but Smash Brothers Melee compared to the original, I mean that's a
really good
leap.
Yeah,
I think in terms of leaps, it's probably Street Fighter 2. Like,
sure,
basically inventing an entire genre over.
Well, what are you gonna do?
And
Mortal Kombat 2 was also a huge leap.
Yeah. Hey guys, games get better all the time.
Yeah,
gotta admit it.
What do you know?
I'm Jose Pizarro from New York. Hello, Jose. He says he likes the podcast. Thank you, Jose. Anyways, I was wondering why there are no video game pilots. Not demos, but TV show pilots like video games. Before a TV show is picked up, a concept episode is made, and if blah, 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 I'll leave explaining what a TV show pilot is up to you. I don't feel like explaining myself any further. I just got off work and I'm sleepy. Bye. All right, thanks, Jose.
There totally are, though. We're just not the main audience. Like,
we
the
don't
public
see
isn't
those.
the audience.
We don't see those.
Yeah, producers and executives see those.
Yeah,
so
they're prototypes.
Yeah, prototypes.
But I mean, we did get D4 and just never heard from that series again. I guess you consider that
you
a
consider
pilot.
that a pilot?
It's a
PT was
pilot that
basically
got canceled.
PT was basically a pilot.
I think the closest thing to what he's talking about is maybe like Double Fine's Amnesia Fortnite, which I've kissed the ass of several times on this podcast,
Sure.
but that's a very public viewing where it's like, hey, we're just making a bunch of quick and dirty prototypes. If one really grabs, the internet's attention, then it might get more weight for pushing into a full development.
I wonder if we would ever get a case where like Telltale puts out a first episode of a series and it's just so monumentally bashed by everyone that they would just be like, all right, we're not going to continue on with this.
I don't know.
I don't think that's going to ever happen.
Because that's not the way that company works.
No, but I'm just wondering if there's ever the scenario that would happen, like an episodic developer, aside from the D4 crew.
That's happened
Sin
before,
episodes,
though.
then,
Yeah, Sin episodes.
Okay.
But I think in recent years, maybe Kickstarter pitch videos are maybe the closest things we have.
Interesting. Yeah.
Just like, hey, we want to sell you on our game. Here's like a brief overview of what it is.
Yeah, here's
But
maybe
yeah.
a demo.
Yeah.
But yeah, like things like PT and Silent Hills.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good
But
example.
see,
one
like,
thing,
but PT's interesting because like that wasn't
It's a proof
that
of
wasn't-
concept more than anything
yeah,
else.
it wasn't a pitch. It wasn't a pilot. It was like here's
teaser.
a marketing thing we're working on supposedly until it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. I feel like we talked about it in an interview with a developer on the podcast recently, but I would just love for a studio like Naughty Dog, just, hey, spend 1 year, just game jam it up, and then just make one disc with all those super sloppy games on it. Just like, hey, here's 24 kind of half-baked ideas from Naughty Dog. How great would that be?
Well, then all those good ideas would get sucked into their next game, though. So I don't think it would.
Well, there we go. What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying they wouldn't release the sloppy versions of the better games that are going to come out later that they game jam to create.
That's right. What if they
Yeah.
come up with their f-stop and they have to put?
You
in
need
the
to tell
thing?
that f-stop story, Serial.
Oh, like the Valve
Yeah.
Valve stuff. They basically said that they didn't want to make a Half-Life 3 or a Portal 3 until they figured out how to use something called f-stop.
Yes. So they had a gameplay mechanic, and that they were originally going to use for Portal 2 when they were designing Portal 2, and they just codenamed f-stop, which is very odd.
Yeah.
And then they said, we'll save it for a future project. And that's going to be one of the great mysteries because they'll probably never get to it.
Do you think it's going to end up like when AG Onuma said like, oh, we have like a very interesting trick for Breath of the Wild, and it was like, this isn't, I mean, I guess.
I think it's a cool
it's a cool
storytelling mechanic.
I don't think it's going to, I don't think it's like the mind bending, like, oh my God, I can't believe this exists.
Yeah.
That I think that f-stop's legend has made it out to be.
Well, what if they convert f-stop into just a new Dota 2 map?
Oh, that'll be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, Kelly from Huntington Beach, California, has a bizarre email. Hey, GI crew. When I was growing up, my parents never let my siblings or me watch any commercials. This was way before TiVo, so in order to avoid the commercials, we were required to turn the TV off for each break, wait 2.5 minutes, then check to see if the show was on again. If not, turn the TV back off for another 30 seconds.
Wow.
Because of this, the only way I knew about any new toys would be from my friends. I don't have any friends that like video games like me, so I had no idea what games were out there and just got whatever my parents or grandparents bought for me, thinking they were the only games in existence. It wasn't until I was much older that I learned you could actually pick from an assortment of games and systems. My question is, did your parents ever impose strange rules on you, and what were they?
What kind of
That was like the
weird...
world's first ad block.
Can you... Brilliant. Could you imagine that? Just shut your eyes,
That's
children.
insanity.
I will not have desire and want in this household.
You will not buy into consumerism.
Yeah.
Here's a video game.
Holy God, that's tough.
I think I remember a lot of commercials better than I remember like the TV shows I was watching, because you just see the commercials, TV show after TV show, like the same commercials on rotation.
Yeah, I'm colorblind, kid.
Yeah.
Did you guys have mean parents?
My parents would like limit my TV time, and like I think I could accumulate TV time. Like per hour I was outside, I would get like a half hour of TV time.
So you just go soak up the sun and bank
Yeah,
hours?
I destroyed my skin.
Right,
And
right.
now then I could play an hour and a half of Street Fighter.
Jesus, that sounds very peaceful.
Man, I don't know. Like, I don't think my parents were necessarily they were pretty liberal for where I lived, but they did have that sort of strange fascination that all parents have, where it's like, we will let you. Well, not all, but most parents have, where, at least in my experience, where it's like, we will let you watch as much garbage, violent television and video game, and play as many violent video games as you want. But if there are two people naked on screen,
No
and they're
sex or
having
bad
sex,
words.
it's like, are you what?
Yeah.
Violent, graphic decapitations and whatever are fine, but people having sex, like that's just, I don't know.
I wasn't allowed
That's
to play.
always been weird to me.
I wasn't allowed to play M-rated games for a while, or even watch R-rated movies. Like I missed a lot of R-rated movies from my childhood. Because
You missed
of
out
that.
on so much hardcore nudity.
Yeah, so much. God.
Yeah, my parents, they were basically game on. But I think the only thing that I remember is my dad being like, you should probably close your eyes at the end of Total Recall. Because I watched a lot of Total Recall when they're like suffocating on Mars. It's effed up.
No,
if
yeah.
you're a really young
Years
kid.
later, no, it's still messed up. Like it's impressive. Like it's
Yeah.
up there with The Thing as far as like graphic effects go.
Well, nothing tops the thing.
Nothing
but
tops
sure,
The Thing,
Sure,
but
maybe
like-
the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Sarah, your parents were cool?
Yeah, I think they were mostly cool. I think
right.
there was a
Next
language barrier that they didn't really like know much about what was going on. So it's like as long as I wasn't out there, like doing bad stuff, committing crimes or anything.
Wait, language barrier. Do they only speak Spanish?
Yeah.
That's wild. I had no idea. Sarah, you're a fascinating figure.
I'm glad you asked Surreal, like, someone asking if like a fellow drug dealer is a cop or something. Like that was very like you were checking. That was the tone. It was like, you cool? Are you cool, Surreal?
You hold
If my
are your
parents only speak Spanish, I have to
You
tell
have to tell.
Yeah.
And do you speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Someday
I didn't
we're
know if you
gonna
couldn't communicate with your parents.
Yeah. Yes.
someday we're gonna have an all
No,
Spanish
I've
GI
never
show.
spoken with my parents.
just surreal.
They only speak Spanish.
That's
I
what
only
I was
speak
getting
English.
at. Can you
it's a huge
communicate
issue.
with your parents?
It's a real sitcom situation.
So would that be cool? Do you think we'd find an audience if we had an all Spanish podcast? Like we tried to get like a Spanish game developer, get Mercury Steam in here and then just do an all Spanish podcast?
I don't know. Maybe that'd be interesting. I don't see a lot of Spanish podcasts, that are that prominent. So maybe.
Cool. All right. The conversion's coming soon.
All right,
Stay
cool.
tuned, everybody.
It'll be on this feed.
Yep, it'll be on this feed. Anyways, be on this feed, or as you'd say in Spanish. Sorry.
And el red.
In El Dread?
Red. That's network.
Oh, all right. That's confusing. Anyways, Luke Larson writes in. It says, nowadays we expect games to be more than just the old games, but new levels that gets left to DLC. So every new game is a compelling new experience. I don't know about everyone. I'm excited to know what new fresh adventure. Am I confused?
Always.
Hey, I think he says, if the internet existed since the 80s and the console cycles existed as normal, what games do you think would have been different? Would there be more content for already fantastic games? Would certain games be DLC for other games? What do the informers think?
Be a lot less glitchy games or a lot fewer glitchy games on Sega and SNES.
They would have patched out Missing Number from Pokemon.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
Game Shark probably wouldn't have existed because it would all have just been paid DLC.
Yeah. Lost Levels or Super Mario Brothers 2 probably would have just been DLC for like a challenge mode.
Yeah.
Tacked on to the end of that.
The internet in what capacity? Because even the internet speeds aren't going to be good enough to patch stuff. Like we had the internet for a while before we were able to implement patches. To
I think that we're
modern
assuming
internet.
that the ability to patch and provide downloadable content and digital stuff is there.
Okay.
Probably like mods and stuff.
Yeah,
I
could see
feel
a lot
like
of mods.
Ooh, like
Mods
like
for
a-
like custom Super Mario levels. Like,
yeah.
like on
Plays
Wii
Mega
U.
Man and Super Mario Brothers.
that sounds good. Let's see, this guy named Edgar Vasquez.
Oh wow, what's that guy got to say?
This is Surreal's brother.
He only speaks Spanish. Also,
He says, I have an embarrassing story about Surreal from his childhood.
Oh, great,
That's not
thanks.
true. Let me tell you about taking a bath with Surreal. Are there any word pronunciations that people or games have that just tear at every fiber of your being? My current one is Nier Automata. It just kills me when people announce it with a soft T, as in automata. It needs the hard T, as in automata. I don't care what anyone says. That's the correct way to say it, and a bunch of people in the video game podcast say it the definitively wrong way. Also, Mario instead of Mario?
Yep.
Why?
It's actually near a tomato.
Near tomato, near tomato. It's fine.
That's the worst sequel. Near a tomato. JB, that's my favorite joke you've ever said.
I think Mass Effect.
It's
What?
affect.
Oh, yeah.
Mass
Naturally.
Effect.
I remember it feels like this has kind of died out, but it was a big part of, I feel like, all of our childhoods of like arguing about how to pronounce things in games. And then when like voice acting came online in games, like, aha,
Yep.
shut up. Even like Hylian was a recent one with
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild, where it's
Yeah.
like, wait, what?
Epona, Epona.
That crappy argument, yeah.
For me, I grew up thinking that it was Titus in
Yes.
Final Fantasy
Yeah,
X.
me too.
Exactly.
It's Titus.
Ooh,
I don't like
gross.
that at all.
Because they
Yeah.
don't say, even though there's
Yeah,
voice
because
acting
it's a
in that
custom
game.
name.
That's right, you
My
can't
favorite
say it.
community is Christopher Titus.
On the Final Fantasy front, I had a very smart friend, actually a couple of them, who argued vehemently that Sid was pronounced Seed. It's like, what universe? And then finally, when voice acting came in, it's like, all right, will you shut the hell up now? It's Sid, for the love of Christ.
When people pronounce it Rue.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Don't
You know
like
who does
at all.
that?
Yeah.
Andrew Runer does it.
Yeah,
he really does.
He
It's very
does.
confusing.
Him and Seth Killian.
Yeah. Even studios. I won't name names, but there's a certain high-level person in our office who calls it Telltale Games every time. Every time. It really makes me laugh. Anyways, thanks, Edgar. By the way, sorry, who pronounces your name best? Who pronounces it worst? Some people put a lot of spin on it. I feel like in the office, I hear people like Joe say it slightly differently than anybody else.
I guess-
Who stands
I
out?
guess I'd have to.
You have
I'd
to listen when
yeah,
people say your name.
I would like a sign file of every person in the office saying my name.
Okay, we can probably get that for you.
We need a ranking for the
Okay.
next podcast.
Oh,
That's
that
right.
would be really good.
Top 10 Surreal Vasquez pronunciations.
Because that's right, just Surreal, right?
Well,
Surreal.
The problem is you guys have an advantage because if you guys go around and say Surreal's name, they're just going to be like, you guys are going to be practicing in the mirror or something.
Yeah. Let's just call you Edgar
Yeah.
from here on out.
That's fine.
Anyways, Nick says, hey guys, huge fan of the show. Thank you. My question for you is, what game do you enjoy or is special to you despite you knowing that it's a bad game or is not held up to the test of time? For him, it's the original Dragon Warrior on NES. Yeah, those old RPGs are rough. For me, it's been very upfront and close and personal recently with Crash Bandicoot Remastered. We're playing through Crash 1 again. I've just finished Crash 1 and that remastered so far. I'm enjoying it, but it is this realization of like, this is a pretty mediocre effort. There's just a lot of confusing nonsense where an enemy that has like spikes on the side, but it's round on the top. You jump on the top for that one, and then it still kills you. Just squirrely jumping mechanics, hitbox nonsense. It's rough. It's a
Yeah.
rough go.
I think another like that era 3D platformer is for me for Sonic Adventure. Like that game has not stood the test of time at all. Like I think it was a good game in its time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's probably for its time I don't want to say the best 3D Sonic game because it's probably Generations or Colors takes that, but Sonic Adventure just has not aged well at all. But I loved it, and I still probably would enjoy it because
Raising
nostalgia.
Chaos is still really fun.
It's
yeah.
funny you should say
Chow's
that,
awesome.
because I think my example is Sonic Adventure 2.
Like
Really?
also or
I-
2.
No, Sonic Adventure 2.
Okay.
Because I played the crap out of that game. I A ranked every mission in that and unlocked like the final level in that game, and I went back to it on
God.
PC, and I played it for about 20 minutes before I was like, no, I'm good.
Help me
I'll
out.
listen to Chow music and that'll be it.
So Sonic Adventure 2, Shadows in that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's where Shadow was introduced.
That was before he had a gun.
I completely forgot. There's a Sonic Adventure 3 as well, right?
No,
No, there's a Sonic Heroes, I think was the direct
Sonic
follow.
Heroes was that was the
Really?
direct
There's
one.
no 3?
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Ah, there we go. We just replayed that a while
plays
ago.
really poorly.
Even the Xbox version?
Yes,
Mm.
because that's the one I
You
went
loved
back
it?
to play. I
Which-
loved it when I was younger because it was filthy.
Yeah, you're a
And-
bat. You can poop.
Yeah,
fun.
you get to fight a poop monster.
Ah,
It's
it's everything you want.
fantastic.
Tom Awesome, friend of the show. He
Hey.
toured the set not too long ago. Oh, yeah, best friend of Brian Shea.
Best friend.
Says Ben and GI Crew, is it hard doing work trips together? When a group of you goes out to a cover story or something, do you fly together, have all your meals together, find hotel rooms with bunk beds? How do you keep from going crazy with that level of interaction with your coworkers?
You
We
don't
actually-
eat poutine in front of Ben fucking
You
Hansen.
don't be an when you choose to eat poutine.
We
in
actually
front of
all buy
Hansen.
one plate and we all ate out of it at the same time.
Sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like E3, you can kind of see a little bit too much of your coworkers,
Yeah?
things like that. But
What do you
Unless
fine.
you
I think we
sleep
have
in
a
the
specific-
podcast set, then it's beautiful.
yeah, that was great for you because you had a room to yourself. But yeah, rooms to yourself are always very nice. Like if there's like an odd number of people going.
Very rare though, and so you have
Yeah.
the ranking in your mind of who's the loudest snorer and who's the safest to sleep with, in the same cozy bed with.
I really only have one because I've only ever roomed with Kyle so far.
How was that?
He's number one so far.
Yeah,
And,
very loud poop.
I was always very afraid that I would do something that he would just be like that I was like encroaching on his personal space or something. So I was
Yeah.
very nervous most of the time. But he was pretty cool.
Yeah, work trips, I feel like we don't really talk about it too much, but it is a lot of time together. You know, that kind of pressure about like, oh, when do I go on a vacation with my girlfriend? This can be, oh boy, that can really be a pressure cooker. You know what I mean? Like it's a real test of the relationship. And I feel like every work trip with coworkers is a little bit of that, of like spending several days together, traveling, probably stressed out, seeing way too much of each other. Let's see how it goes.
Eating every meal together, sleeping in the same room together.
Yes.
Right, same bed. Wait, what?
Same bed.
It's been done. It's been done.
Where are you guys staying?
We're having a good time. But yeah, it's tricky, but we all love each other and we're all best friends.
But yeah,
That's right.
it is kind of difficult when you do have a roommate to like have that true decompression at the end of like a busy show day or yeah.
That's what they made bars for.
That's right. Go for long walks. Anyways, Alan Cooley says, Ben and GI Crew, may surprise you to know that your show is a big reason that I watched Twin Peaks for the first time several years ago and loved it.
Oh.
This was because of the review of Deadly Premonition by the great Phil Kohler, friend of the show, and the conversation that surrounded that game. With that being said, what do you think of the new season of the show, especially episode 8 of the new season of Twin Peaks?
Oh, man.
I'm enjoying it, but I'm also put off by some of Lynch's strangeness. That's just David Lynch. What do we think?
Who here is watching it?
I haven't
Like,
watched
I-
it.
I have the worst perspective. I've never seen a single episode of Twin Peaks, but I listened to the Idle Thumbs Network podcast recap of episode 8, just
So it's
trying
like-
to understand what everyone was talking about.
I mean, it's basically it's like Fantasia, but David
Yes.
Lynch
Yes.
does Fantasia.
That's what he does in most of his movies. I mean, to some
No,
degree.
no.
Well,
no,
to
no.
varying degrees. I think like if you watch not Boardwalk Empire, Inland Empire, it has some elements of like surrealism.
Sure, but like there's nothing like David Lynch has never done like that kind of surreal that he does in episode 8, where it's just like
Okay.
bit of wonder. Like here's the wonder of the universe and of good and evil,
Okay.
and like constantly, like it's just
Just crazy montage.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
Um,
seems to be hinting at like, here's how this universe was roughly
Yeah.
pieced together type of thing. But listening to that one podcast episode, I had no idea that Twin Peaks was toying with so many kind of like cosmic themes. I thought it was like, yeah, it's a wacky murder town. Everyone's weird in their own way. They speak backwards, yada yada, like
Yeah.
the pop culture version of it. But
Right.
that's a weird well.
I mean, it
Yeah.
always hinted at it. Like towards the like in season 2, they go a little bit heavy, but it wasn't. It never really got cosmic. It just sort of thought like there are spirits that
yeah,
are fighting for control over things, and never really got to where episode 8 seems like it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it mostly as someone who's like caught up on the 3rd season and who loved the 1st season but hated the 2nd season of the show because the 2nd season is really bad.
Just drawn out.
Drawn out, and there's like a bunch of wacky plot lines because whoever replaced David Lynch on that show was like, okay, we'll just do wacky shit because that's what David did, but that's not what he was doing.
Yeah.
There are important moments throughout that entire season, which is why I resent it so much, is because if you want to have like an understanding of like what is going on, you kind of have to watch that entire season. But
it's bad.
I would just love the Cliff Notes version of it.
Overall, I feel like I have a solid read though on like Twin Peaks season 3. It's like, hey, living up to everything we wanted, uneven, but
it almost
good.
feels like it's its own beast from what I've seen.
Yeah, like if you go into Twin Peaks season 3 and you go into it with an expectation of like, it's going to be more Twin Peaks. We're going to see more of the same characters we love and spend more time in that town. You might not be happy. If you go into it thinking, all right, this is David Lynch, and David Lynch does whatever he wants, and we're going to go on this journey together with David Lynch's weird bullshit, whatever that entails, you're probably going to be in for a good time.
If the Velvet Room moments in the first couple seasons were your favorite part of that show, it feels like this is the show for you.
Yeah.
Also, I think you've been watching it. I haven't watched it yet, JV, but I love the 2nd season. I don't feel like I've got the 1-sentence review for Fargo season 3 yet.
Oh yeah,
Good, not as good as 2. Is that where we're at?
ranking is for me is season 2, season 3, season 1.
All right, perfect. Love it. That's all I want to know. Mason Cowell from Chattanooga, Tennessee, woo, says, hey, Ben and GI crew, my question is, what multiplayer game or part of a game do you feel like was severely underrated or underappreciated? For example, I know both of the High Moon Transformers games were well received critically, but it feels like no one ever talks about how much fun the online multiplayer was in those games. I had a ton of fun with the multiplayer of both those games, but the player base dried up far too quickly. See also Titanfall 2.
Assassin's Creed.
Interesting.
Assassin's Creed did have a fun
like
Spy
those are
Party
really,
was
while
cool.
it lasted.
Yeah, it was really fun, and then like no one played it, and it died.
Yeah.
And now, like in the new cover story, even there's a quote from the creative director for Assassin's Creed saying, "We don't see Assassin's Creed as a competitive multiplayer game."
Well, I mean, it hasn't been in like what the past 2 or 3 games.
2?
It was in 4. It was in 4,
Okay,
and
so
I think
it was not in Unity or Syndicate.
Yes.
yeah, because Unity is where it went cooperative, like cooperative in-game elements.
And
didn't
Syndicate
do
was
that in
100%
Syndicate,
single player, right?
Right, I feel so.
That's wild. But you really dug it, not just conceptually, but you got into it.
No, like I really
leveled
enjoyed
I-
it when
I
you
enjoyed
could
it.
find a game to play. And
Yeah.
Ubisoft games have this problem. We saw it with For Honor and Ghost Recon a little bit. When like everything is working technically, and you can get into a match and you're just running around with people hiding and assassinating. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
so much fun. But half the time it didn't work.
Yeah, right on.
I think my pick would probably be Lost Planet, the first one.
Wow.
I played a lot of that first game
Oh wow.
in multiplayer because I really like grappling hooks, and so like that zipline thing where you can just zip to anything and jump to like weird parts of the map, and the mechs were in the multiplayer and stuff. And I played more of that multiplayer than I probably should have. And the second one I thought was like not good either. Like the multiplayer aspect of that was it felt like it was one of those games where it's like it wants to be a single player multiplayer game where they want to corral you into the multiplayer of that game, and it just didn't really work on any level.
No one ever talks about Splinter Cell Blacklist anymore. Like one of the great crimes of like last generation was like that game got totally overlooked because it came out in the same year as like The Last of Us and Grand Theft Auto and all these other games.
Yeah.
And when they do talk about it, they talk about the single player, but the multiplayer in Blacklist, which was basically like a refinement of the spies versus mercs thing, was amazing.
Leo Vader in the booth. Do you want to chime in? I know it's your number one game of all time.
It's the greatest game ever made.
You
Is
do
it
love
really?
that game though, right?
I will agree though.
Yeah.
Like it's easily my favorite Splinter Cell, and maybe like one. It is in terms of how it plays and how the stealth works. I think it is second only to Metal Gear Solid 5 in terms of how good that stealth is.
Yeah.
I think I'm in the minority, and like this isn't a multiplayer thing, but while we're talking about Splinter Cell, I like Conviction a lot.
I
think
think you're
people
very
like-
much in the minority.
Yeah,
you're a
I know.
weirdo.
But also I wasn't a Splinter Cell fan going into that game.
All right, that explains it. I was tempted to say Last of Us. Renowned game. I think the multiplayer is better than people really
Oh, that's
talk
true.
about.
Last of Us
I completely
multiplayer is really
forgot
good.
about that
Yeah.
multiplayer.
Yeah.
Also, the way it tied into Facebook and like pulled your friends in. I love that
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. But then I had the epiphany. What if? And it's so easy with every franchise to just
What if?
combine this, chocolate and peanut butter. But Last of Us Part 2, what if they just go Battle Royale? It would fit that universe, dude.
Yeah,
It would.
Just make it some sort of arena's tough, but just play space. They could do it. And with the popularity of PUBG
So,
now, like
Neil
I think it lines
Druckmann's
up with when
Battlegrounds?
they'd have to make that call. Neil Druckmann's Battlegrounds, exactly. Is it too much to ask?
And DBG.
There we go. So Barbara Joe, she writes into almost all of our game clubs. It's just a real champ. And
Awesome.
She with the game club, she has a signature style where she has bullet points of all these different points.
Ooh.
And she's kind of keeping this format here for this one, for this email, saying, "Hello, GI crew. I like Dan Tech's opinion about game backlogs, which is, quote, play whatever makes you happiest." That's just Dan Tech's way. That's why I recently played Ghost Trick instead of Horizon Zero Dawn. Ooh, great choice. But I'm usually indecisive when it comes to picking what game to play. So could you please help me pick my next game to play?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, you got to play it. I can't believe you played Ghost Trick instead. All right, so here's a list of games that she's thinking about playing. We just have to agree what game she should actually play.
She should just play Ghost Trick again, actually.
All right. Symphony of the Night, Vagrant Story, Okami, Xenoblade, Metroid Prime, Chrono Cross, Assassin's Creed Unity, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, Breath of Fire, Earthbound, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Super Mario RPG, Ni no Kuni, Legend of Dragoon, Until Dawn, Persona 4 Golden. Which should she play?
Probably Symphony of the Night. I think for a number of reasons. One, it's a really good game. And two, it has like a very immediate feel that'll just get you playing it. Like I feel like when I have that many games to choose from, I always feel like I always have like an opportunity cost kind of thing of like I'm wasting my time by playing this when I can be playing out something better.
Yeah.
But I think Symphony of the Night kind of grabs you very quickly, and it's if you want, it can be a pretty quick game to cross off your list.
That's good. That's good. I'm gonna cross off some of these just so we can whittle it down because that's great.
Assassin's
Vagrant
Creed
Story,
Unity.
great. PS1 jank. I don't know how well it holds up. Cool game, no doubt. No doubt, fans out there. But I'm crossing off Okami. Longer than you think,
Yeah.
realistically. And going to your backlog, I think you need shorter games.
Especially going back to it, I feel like that game's going to be a slog.
Xenoblade, again,
Yeah.
amazing, but like we're talking 90 hours. You can't do it. Metroid Prime 1 is interesting.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a good one to play before 4 comes out.
sure.
Chrono Cross, one of my favorites. But again, I think it falls in the too big category for backlog. Maybe that's heresy. Assassin's Creed, Unity, Black Flag.
Not Unity. I'd say Black Flag over Unity for sure.
But just
How do you say
wait for the
it's
new
Syndicate?
one.
Yeah.
Just get
That's
ready
true.
to play Origins. It's coming out so soon. So nope. Breath of Fire, great contender. Earthbound and Super Mario RPG, I'm going to cross out just because the SNES Mini is coming out soon. That'd be the coolest way to play those.
Sure.
Breath of Fire isn't on it. You could do that. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, remake's coming out soon. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Ni no Kuni, interesting.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
disconnected.
There is a sequel coming out.
and it's disconnected from the sequel. You know what I mean? So like she
so
could
you-
jump right into the sequel.
so
So I'm
she
gonna cross
just
that
gets-
Just
out.
go watch a
just
Miyazaki movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Legend of Dragoon, same Vagrant Story issue.
It is.
Not
Yeah.
doing it.
Yes, Until Dawn.
Until Dawn, great
Until
contender as
Dawn would
well.
be another
Persona
great
4 Golden.
contender.
Oh,
That's a long one.
It's
too
on the
long.
verge because it is so good, but it's like
It's like 80
also
hours, right?
really, really long. Yeah.
It's not as long as Persona 5, but
Yeah.
it's pretty long.
So Barbara Joe, we have Symphony of the Night, Metroid Prime, Breath of Fire, Until Dawn.
I vote Until Dawn.
I'll vote Until Dawn.
Symphony of the
It's a
Night.
I vote
fun,
Metroid Prime.
fun, quick little.
I
story.
do. I think you can't. Until Dawn or Symphony of the Night are great choices.
I think Until Dawn wins.
Yeah.
It's PS Plus right now for PS4.
That's true. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
Barbara
Yeah.
Joe.
It'd be free, ready to go, quicker experience, get you primed for
top. I feel
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
gets you ready for
Maybe
Hidden
a little bit
Agenda
longer.
later this
It'll
year.
get you ready for the
Depends on
VR
who dies.
experience that everyone needs to play.
Are you talking about Bravo Team?
That's right.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about Rush of Blood. or whatever.
You joke. Watch Bravo Team come out and have Until Dawn lore in it.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Like it's gonna happen.
Are you talking about the Supermassive Universe?
Yeah.
That's right.
Is that what that studio's called?
There's just going to be some document on a wall that just says when to go.
Wendigo.
And that's the whole that's the whole connection.
Amazing. Favorite email. What do you guys like?
I like the weird restrictions your parents put on you. I liked the DLC for old games.
I had fun choosing that one reader's backlog. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, we did just do that, but you're right. I kind of like the pilot idea.
I like the pilot and the backlog.
What about convoluted lore?
Meh.
Okay.
Like I felt like we got expected answers about those.
Okay, all right.
Best sequel.
Yeah, there's Edgar Vasquez. Best sequel is also a thing.
Is that a conflict of interest?
It might be. Let's go with pilot.
Yep, pilot works.
Jose Pizarro
Sure.
from New York. We'll ship you out something real nice.
It won't be as nice as an Evo fidget spinner. Sorry.
That's right.
We're gonna yank it out of Surreal's
Here we
cold
go.
dead hands and give it to you.
Are you
Jose.
guys ready?
Amazing for the audio listeners.
Boy.
Simply amazing.
It's very erotic.
Hold it up to the microphone so we can hear it.
All right,
Oh.
all right, that's cool. I take it back. Anyways, you guys ready to leave emails behind and move on to the great expanse of the universe with physicist Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, listen to this. Dr. Tyson, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thanks for having me. I love what you've done with the place.
Do you like it? We did it all for you. We really hope you appreciate it, sir. So you've been courting the video game world recently for your new Kickstarter, Space Odyssey. And I'm just curious, what is it like to interact with that world? I know you're at E3. Do you have any broad impressions of just kind of the gaming landscape nowadays?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I go way back with games. I mean, in a day when games on the computer was it was probably surely still the case, but it was what you did when you didn't want to keep working that day.
I think that holds true to today, Neil. Yeah.
still the case. In the days before first-person shooters and things, they were just. Of course, I was a fan of the more space-based games, Asteroids and Space Invaders and this sort of thing. And something cool I recently learned that remember how Space Invaders, the more of them you attacked and the fewer that were there, the faster they would come down the screen.
Yeah.
And I learned recently that originally that was a natural feature of the fact that the processing power was not high enough to move a full screen worth of Space Invaders quickly. And as you took them out one by one, that same processing power now applied to fewer Space Invaders and it could move them faster. Yeah. So it was sort of a built-in fact of the processor. And then as processors got much, much faster, they then had to program in the speed up. That's just a cute little fact.
Happy accidents that result in beautiful game design. I think a lot of the world and universe is probably a conclusion of happy accidents. So it's beautiful that you noticed that.
But I don't claim special insight in modern time. I mean, I've been very busy writing books and bringing the universe down to earth. So this exercise in bringing a new game to the marketplace, I'm learning a lot. And there are people who have the experience in this that I don't. And of course, what I'm bringing is sort of scientific accuracy and authenticity, something I care about, something I've criticized movies for not having when they intended to have it. Generally, I don't criticize if no one really cared in the first place. Then there's no point to criticize it because that was not their intent. They was have a much more fantasy. It might be much more fantasy driven rather than expecting to have any factual foundation. One of my favorite edicts is from Mark Twain, who says, first get your facts straight, then distort them at your leisure. So our primary goal for a Space Odyssey is to, initially you'll be visiting exoplanets. The catalog of exoplanets is now rising past 3,000 in the known universe, which is in fact a very close circle around where the solar system is, because the galaxy is huge and the universe is even huger. So, but nonetheless, there's thousands of them. And so we want this to be an adventure game, a game where you will go explore what is known about the planet. And then where we don't know more than what's there, you then create it. And so you get to create your own planets and build on them and spawn civilizations, this sort of thing. But what we want to do to distinguish it from all the others is to have an almost a manic attention to scientific detail where the science enables it. And where it doesn't, that's where your imagination can take it. And I'll add that for those who've studied the universe, you realize that there's nothing more stupefying than the universe itself. And there's a biologist philosopher, J.B.S. Haldane, who once commented that the universe is not only stranger than we have imagined, it might be stranger than we can imagine. So this, for me, offers limitless moving frontier.
Absolutely. It's interesting to think about, you venturing into games a little bit. It seems like, from our perspective, a lot of games out there, a crazy majority, are about empowering the player. It seems like the role of science and thinking about space is to belittle the player, to make them think that they're less significant than they could possibly imagine.
I think if you want to think of it as belittling, that's if you come at it. If you don't think deeply about it, you might feel cut down by it. But then you realize how powerful the laws of physics are, and what is actually going on in the universe is a stunning. It's a stunning panoply of things you can do once you see what the laws of physics are. Oh, and by the way, you also end up learning. And I'm an educator, so learning is an important feature of what's going on here. But I don't want to think of it as an educational game because there's educational product out there. It's still, I want to make sure it has a soul in the modern gaming world where no one is really going to learn something, but in this case, the capacity to learn is built into the game itself.
And do you think that interaction, that's what drew you to this project because you feel like that's a good way to convey the principles that you're going for, or are you just trying to get the messages and what's important to you across to a new audience, like the gaming audience?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So yes to both.
Okay.
So I've stepped into places where I hadn't previously been before. We started the radio show Star Talk, where our guests are not scientists generally. They're people hewn from pop culture, and I'm the host. And I ask them questions that relate to all the ways science has touched their lives. So if you come to listen to the show, now having jumped species and it appears on television, you come to the show for the celebrity, but you stay for the science. And that was a new medium for me, but I enjoyed it. I have very talented people plugged into it. And so that handles people who didn't know they like science, or better yet, people who are sure they didn't like science because they're attracted to that product, if you will, for these other reasons. And like I said, you come for celebrity, you stay for science. The gaming world is just something I haven't touched yet. And it's a big part of what people do and how they spend time. And there's surely a place in there where we can find exactly what will serve that audience. And a big part of the Kickstarter program is to absorb not only where people are, but where they want to go, where it has not otherwise been served in the gaming community.
You do such a good job of, riling up film lovers by bringing scientific facts towards things like Star Wars, things like that. If you ever want to rile up the gaming community, there's a series called Mass Effect. If you just sent out one tweet ever about something that was nonsensical in this Mass Effect series, the universe would explode. People would pay so much attention to it. Just to give you a little bait, if you ever want to go for it, Neil.
Ooh, this is low-hanging fruit.
My gosh, it's right there. There's space blue ladies. There's a bunch of nonsense you could just tear apart if you're interested.
No, but again, I don't. People think of me as a buzzkill type person. But that's not how I think of myself. I think of myself as someone who is highlighting things you might want to know about what you just witnessed and why and to enhance your pleasure. Wouldn't you want to know while you're playing a game that this thing that wafted by has a whole scientific foundation to it, and it's not just coming off of an artist palette that it is coming off of an artist palette, but it has foundations in real biology, chemistry, physics, engineering. So that's the goal. Yeah. And like I said, it's a place I've yet to tread, and I had no guarantee that it will succeed. But we're sort of 2/3 of the way through the Kickstarter. There's another few weeks. It ends at the end of July. Of course, you know how Kickstarters work. If you don't raise the money, none of the money changes hands.
Right.
So that's the goal. And by the way, when the Kickstarter first kicked about a month ago, my face was in every single ad, and I said, guys, I'm an advisor to this project, and so we've dialed it back just to make it clear that this is an idea that is a collaborative idea. And by the way, I have a stable of scientists, science educator scientists that I use for Star Talk, the radio TV show, and they have expertise spread across the scientific spectrum, not only in astrophysics, but neuroscience and anthropology. And so we'll be bringing their expertise together for this as well. So it'll have a very nice set of a very nice, firm scientific foundation.
Yeah, for sure. So in the video game world, there's a concept known as feature creep or scope creep. And when the game that you guys are making is about simulating a galaxy or a universe, how do you know when to stop? What are the limits of this game that you want to make here?
Yeah, so what you say is not only important in gaming world, but it's important in any mission creep is one of the great failures. The fact that exists represents one of the great failures in ideas that people bring to marketplace or bring to in their scope of creativity. So I don't mind creeping in that sense into a place where there's still good science that can be represented. This will sort of grow the digital universe in which this game lives. Where our intent is to begin with a journey to Proxima B. Proxima is the nearest star to the sun, part of the Alpha Centauri system. We've all heard of Alpha Centauri. It's not a single star, it's a multiple star system. One of them is closest to the sun. That has a planet, an Earth-like planet orbiting around it. It's like, oh my gosh, the closest planet to us is Earth-like. So the idea that we would expand to other exoplanets would not in that context be mission creep. What we could do is expand to moons. Moons are fascinating things. We used to think they were just dots of rock. And now that in the solar system, that's where the action is. They're moons with ice volcanoes and buried oceans and methane lakes. And so these are real places that have real descriptions. So again, I wouldn't call that mission creep if we make sure that the science stays as a center bit to it. But if we have sort of wizards and dragons,
it's tough to stop these game designers, Neil. You're going to learn along the way.
You know what would be fun, though? And I've done this with Superman. I don't know if you know, in Action Comics 14, I helped Superman find Krypton in the actual universe. So there's a star in the southern hemisphere that has all the right properties in distance and color to be Superman's home star system. And so one thing I want to do is look for all of the fictional places that people have imagined and to see if they could represent actual exoplanets that are out there. And then you could visit Superman's planet, Thor's planet. That would just be a fun little side project. Then that'll further embed it in the
it's a project
in the creative universe that so preoccupies the geekosphere.
Yeah, something, for that free time that you'll have so much of, Neil. I'd imagine that's a good side project for you. But in the gaming world, do you have a favorite video game of all time?
Well, no, like I said, I came from old school. I'm not in the middle of all that's going. So, like I said, some of this is a learning curve for me, not for others we brought on the project. I remember playing Dark Castle in 2-bit video, where I remember at the time how important it was that I had a place to escape to in the middle of what is otherwise a busy day or a day where I'm just sort of otherwise exhausted. And so, and there it was just, controlling off the keyboard and it was just sort of black and white pixelated journey that you're taking, but it was escapist. And I recognize and I value what role that plays. When I was in college, now we're going back to the 1970s, we had guys that programmed early versions of asteroids. And what was fun about asteroids, okay, again, it's just 2-bit, and these were CRTs, green CRTs. You could program a folded universe in that. So there's a source of gravity in the middle, so everyone is responding to a force of gravity, a correct force of gravity, and you can shoot at people, but your projectile is, of course, susceptible to not only the force you gave it, but the force of gravity added to it. But what you could also do is shoot off the side of the screen, and then it would come off the others because the edges of the universe were folded. So you could shoot this way and get someone who wasn't looking on the other side. So again, that was a great time waster in college when I should have been studying for my physics exams. Yeah,
naturally. I've been meaning to ask you too, if our universe is a simulation, is there any chance it started as a Kickstarter project?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. My big disturbing fact about this is that there is no good argument against us being in a simulation.
But we're too important to be a simulation, Neil.
I just, and as our computing power grows and we can put more and more detail into our games and possibly give characters the illusion of free will that they might have, they might then develop their own computing systems and then develop their own universes within their places of action. And so but it's the only way I can explain really weird things that happen every few decades. weird politics rises up, or war, global war. These are things that rise and then fall and fade, and things are beautiful and calm for a while. And I'm thinking the programmer says, all right, that's enough, guys. We got to stir the pot. let's throw in, here's Donald Trump for you. See how you deal with that. Can we is there an argument against that?
I don't think there is. Know. So if people want to help fund the creation of your universe, they should go check out the Space Odyssey project.
Yeah, well, again, I try not to tell people what to do. To the extent that they feel that the marketplace could benefit from it, and we live in a time where science literacy is no doubt more important than ever before. If you can gain science literacy while having fun and doing your normal sort of gaming, getting your gaming mojo on, I think that's a good thing for the world. And but more importantly, I think this a big part of this Kickstarter is to gather some of the wisdom that's already out there of people's wants, people's needs, and fold that in ways that could best serve the gaming community.
Absolutely. And real quick before you go, Mr. Tyson, what happens when we die, and can you make it so that we don't die? I've been meaning to ask you this.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yes.
There's a consequence if we don't die.
Uh-huh.
If we never die, that is, if you can biologically live forever, it means the number one cause of death will be car accidents. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
So think about that, because it means there'll be no disease.
Yes.
So that means now you have to have self-driving cars. So that's a good thing. So that's fine.
Okay.
But then you might still be afraid to cross the street or ever get into a bar brawl, because that could be the end of your life that could have gone for another 1,000 years.
Interesting.
So A. B, if people live forever, then the projections for the population of the Earth grow even faster than what they're currently projected to do. Because what they're currently projected is you have birth rates, and it is assuming people die, okay? And the birth rates outstrip the death rates, so the population grows. But if nobody dies, then there is no death rate. And so we will rapidly need to terraform Mars to accomplish this.
Okay, there we go.
So what we might do is throw a scenario in the game where the population of the Earth is overrun, and now you have to make Mars livable. Go. All right?
Beautiful.
So
we'll see.
Yeah,
if it
by the way,
works.
I worry if you live forever.
Yeah.
What would motivate you to wake up each morning to try to do something interesting? And so for me, I'm content knowing my life is limited, because it gives measure and value to every waking day of my life.
And that's why we love you, Dr. Tyson. So thank you so much, and best of luck with your project and all your endeavors in the interactive world. So thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for finding me. I'm in Australia now, so thanks for finding me down under. Glad it's worked out.
All right, take care, sir. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.